it was a very powerful video to me, and it really encapsulated a lot of the things about elder abuse. So even though there was no physical abuse at the video, but the way that the mother was treated, it was really hurtful.
Having a son take care of his mother in the Latino culture is not traditional. It's usually the daughter. And perhaps the same can be said in the Asian culture.
Absolutely, I think you brought up a very good point. For Asian families, like you said, usually the daughter or the daughter-in-law who takes care of the mother. And it is kind of, I'm not saying it is not heard of, but it's unusual for a son to take care of the mother. And also there's, especially for the abused senior, they have this strong sense of the family together. So even when they're suffering abuse, they don't want to do anything against their children.
Well, one of the things that are universal in nature when it comes to elder abuse is the suffering in silence. We don't want to bring shame to the family. We don't want to bring in outsiders to come in and judge us, or that's my daughter or that's my son. How can, if they take her away or they take him away, then the other alternative is to go to a nursing home. And we don't do that in our family, to go to the nursing home. So that certainly supporting the family and finding ways in which we can continue to help them stay together and help each other is something that we do in the Latino community. But on the other hand, I also look at the history of family violence. Is that a pattern that we have to understand? Is this something that is repeating itself over time? Is there a cultural tendency for suffering in the Latino community? Women take on the role of the Virgin Mary and they suffer, and so suffering is not something that is if they suffer in life now, their reward will come in heaven later on. So that the whole notion of elder abuse may not be something as cut and dried as let's call the police and get this to stop. It's a very complex issue within the Latino communities.
Yeah, so interesting. You mentioned about the Latino families suffering in silence, looking for reward, in heaven or in the future. For the Asian family, they look to the past. It's like there's a cultural belief in reincarnation. So if they're being abused in this life, they believe they have done something wrong in their former life, and now this is just payback. But however, the result will still be the same, that they would be suffering in silence. For one example is in the Chinese cultural context, disrespect is a big disrespect of your parents. That is a big abusive behavior. If you address your mother by their name, you will call the mother by the name. You say you will call you Evelyn, and then instead of calling them the mother mom, that in the Chinese cultural context, that's interpreted as disrespect, and that would alert you to a situation of abuse. And these cultural signs may not be picked up by a non-Chinese person. So there is a cultural lens how people view whether something they would say is abuse or not. That is a very strong feature in the Asian elders. And if they're being abused by their children, they tend to blame themselves. They will think that I must have done something wrong to make my kids do this to me. So one of the things that abused Chinese elders most afraid of is if they have broken the relationship with their children, then after they pass away, nobody will take care of the graves anymore. Nobody will burn incense nobody would give them offerings. And this is something that will bring great pain to them. And this is something that, in our elder abuse program, we always have to address.
It's a question of fear of threats. It's threats, right? So that's psychological abuse.
Yes.
When you look at it that way, because the fear that no one will be around to honor my memory, that's a threat, and that will keep people quiet. So we would see that as well. So even though it's not part, in the Latino community, we do believe in life after death. So that who will say the Mass for us at the year's anniversary? Who will do the rosary for the 9 days after the death? If I create a difficult situation within my family, those are the things that won't take place after my death. So, as I said, we have more in common than we have differences. And underlying all this is fear, love and fear. And there's a delicate balance between the two of them. And this is what motivates a lot of people that are in elder abuse situations. Absolutely. The love of my child versus the fear of what will happen if something happens to them.
I think a very good point. Very often when we talk about elder abuse, we always have the image of elder, black and blue, being beaten up. But there are a lot of times, this is psychological. And even though there are no outside wounds, to me, the hurt is still the same. And sometimes it could be even more painful than physical. And this is one of the things that make elder abuse so hard to detect is sometimes you don't see the visible wounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's psychological trauma. And that's why it takes many professionals and experts to provide that kind of help. And that's what we need more of.